Hi, everyone. This is Lauren Baker, founder of Search Engine Journal. And with me today, I have Jason Tatum from CallRail. Give you a chance to say hi real quick, Jason. Tatum.
Hey, everybody.
So thanks for joining. I'm going to give some folks a chance to kind of jump in the webinar before we get officially started and do some housekeeping really quickly. So again, thanks for joining today's webinar. It's going to be on increasing PPC campaign ROI with call tracking and conversation intelligence, which is really interesting, especially getting into planning for next year. A lot of us seem to really focus on lead forms and direct sales, but there's also other ways to accumulate that data on your audience, especially audiences that prefer to call, especially with mobile devices and mobile browsers, usage and market share continuing to increase. But before Tatum gets started, let me just do some housekeeping. So our official hashtag for today is hashtag SEJ webinar. This is a partnered webinar with CallRail, a very great partner that we have over here at SEJ. And Tatum or Jason Tatum, whichever one you prefer, you see his Twitter handle down there at Jason J. Tatum. Please feel free to connect with Jason on Twitter, or Tatum on Twitter, sorry, I keep on. And then also to let your friends know all the information they're missing out on by sharing any of the slides, data, information, and hashtag us at hashtag SEJ webinar. Just to let you know, Tatum's presentation is going to be about 25 minutes, maybe 30, depending upon how long it takes to finish the polls. Afterwards, we'll be jumping into a Q&A session. As your questions come up during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the question box here on your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll then be going through all of those questions and asking them at the end and having conversation around those. So don't be shy, ask questions as they come up. Also, as I was alluding to, we're going to have some polls during this presentation. So when we have the polls, please answer the question. We try to get about 80% on the polls. It really helps with crafting the presentation, understand where you stand in terms of PPC call tracking and then also conversation intelligence. And on that final note, that's all the housekeeping. Handing things over to you.
All right, Lauren, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I am on the product team at CallRail, and I'm here today to share with you some tips on utilizing a platform like CallRail's to optimize the lead journey from awareness to customer in one consolidated and seamless place. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I hope it's worth your while. I'm happy to be here, and I'd love to answer your questions at the end. So please make sure to jot them down as we go. So there's the agenda here that we have. We have the obligatory introductions. We're going to talk about easy ways to identify wasted ad spend, strategies to uncover new keywords that drive leads, ways to improve customer experience and close more deals, and tactics to eliminate blind spots in your marketing. For the introductions, the obligatory, who am I? I am Jason Tatum. Lauren didn't get it wrong. Most people in my life call me by my last name. I'm a last name person. I also have the same name of a famous basketball player, and that basketball player, even though he spells his name slightly differently, changed my life forever, because now people all over the world use my Gmail address to sign up for whatever things that they sign up for at all times. My name is the name that pops into their head for fake email addresses. So a lot of fun for me. Feels like I'm a character in Office Space, but that's okay. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I would love to hear where you're from. So please drop that in the chat. It's always interesting to see where everywhere in the world people are coming from. Please send that over. I'd like to see. Atlanta, Georgia is sunny right now. It's kind of It's cooler. It's cool. You know, it's November, but it's not super cold. It's kind of just the way I like it. Sunny and brisk. Nice time of year. I cycle casually and I cycle slowly. I'm a certain number of years old, starting to gray at the temples a little bit. I have a dog and a lovely wife, and I have a sweet 15-month-old girl who loves to dance. And I'm not kidding. She is a phenomenal dancer at the age of 15 months, and no one taught her, nor am I or any of her lineage a good dancer. So then there's the deeper wiring. Okay, so when we talk about kind of who I am as a person and who you are as a person, there's personality tests that are designed for this, right? And some of them, some people go really all in on personality tests, like they just do, and that's okay. I kind of use them as like fun and informative. Have any of y'all ever done the Strengths Finder test? It's been around a while. It's one of those business aptitude / personality things that's gone through waves of popularity. In short, you answer a bunch of questions and they will list out your strengths in order. It's all very definitive, very Team Retreat 2006 kind of vibes. And I thought for sure I'd be strongest in something like connectedness. That's a real strength in the Strengths Finder test. Or woo. Woo sounds so great. Don't we all want woo as our number one? Have you seen the show Ted Lasso? Has anyone seen Ted Lasso? It's on Apple TV. It's extremely good. Heartwarming. It's a salve for the soul in these troubled times. I highly recommend it. It's hilarious. It's about a folksy football coach, who gets hired for no discernible reason to coach a soccer team in England. Hilarity ensues, but so does a lot of charm and woo by Coach Ted. Ted is high woo. Apparently, I don't have it. Instead, I got input. What is that? What is input? Honestly, I was surprised that my best strength is something called input. And I tell coworkers this, and they all smirk and they say, "Yes, Tatum, we all know that you love to give input." But apparently, that's not what input is really all about. These types of people crave context, data, and research. These are the people who are the go-to for podcast recommendations. You don't send them interesting articles. You say, "Hey, what'd you think about that piece in the Atlantic last month?" And they'll know, and they'll have read it. The reason high input people love to absorb data, both qualitatively and quantitatively, is because it gives them the confidence to make good decisions. And strategically, they feel they'll make fewer poor decisions over time as their data sets and those knowledge troves grow. Input is my number one. The test totally nailed it. I took a test and it told me why I had a subscription to Time magazine when I was a 10-year-old. Not Time Junior. I did the full-fledged thing. It was a lot of fun at parties when I was 10. Input is what led me on the journey to become a product manager and why I love the vision of CallRail. Every business can improve their performance of their marketing in one platform. Products like what CallRail and other purveyors of fine digital goods arm businesses with, especially small businesses, is data that is clear, actionable, and at your fingertips. How does knowing that my strength and input help you in any way to be a better marketer? Well, we don't all have the same strengths, but there are tools to help us close gaps and blind spots and even learn to become stronger in areas of deficiency. You might be amazing at coming up with blog content. You might be amazing at generating landing page for special promotions or campaigns. But how much data is going into the decisions to optimize and get better? That's where these tools can come in and make you stronger in that category and a better marketer. Let's dive in, but first, we're going to have a couple of polls.
Excellent. Thanks, Tatum. And I'm starting with the first poll. I also have not watched that show yet on Apple TV, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's great.
Launching. So the first question is, how do you optimize your keyword bids? We have 5 different options here. A, based on click-through rate. B, based on form fill conversion rate. C, based on call conversion. D, based on customer conversion. Or E, I don't know. I don't know how I optimize my keyword bids. So please, we have about 30% of you have voted thus far. Take the chance to do so. How do you optimize your keyword bids? Click-through rate, form fill rate, call conversions, customer conversions, or you don't know? Go ahead and do a quick countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you hadn't had a chance yet, go ahead and vote right now. I am closing the poll and sharing the results. Not sure if you can see these or not, Tatum, but here it goes. Interesting results. So 34% are based on customer conversion, right? So I guess this is more or less customer conversion as a whole. 32% of keyword bids are optimized on click-through rate. 11% on form fill conversion rate. Only 9% based on call conversion. And then 14% don't know, not sure yet. So any thoughts there on the results? I'm hiding them right now and going back to your presentation.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I'm really interested. I think one of the things that's fascinating about that is how nebulous customer conversion can be, and can mean a lot of different things. And then click-through rate being so high is also interesting. I think that's where we get into some of the interaction tracking that we talk about, calls, forms, etc. That you might get, that definitely speaks to kind of where we're going in the presentation as far as reliable tracking on conversion. So very interesting results.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, so on to the second poll then.
All right, poll number 2. Let's get them all out of the way right now.
Yeah.
This one has a little bit less answers. So yes or no, are you currently using call tracking technology? Please take the chance to vote right now. We already have 60% have voted. So please go ahead. I'll do a quick countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Answer yes or no. Are you currently using call tracking technology? I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. And this is interesting. Pretty much split down the middle. 52% are currently not using call tracking technology, and 48% are.
Wow.
Right?
We should have had a third poll. Now that we should have done a skip logic thing. That's if yes, is that through Google, or no, is it something else? That would be interesting to know.
You know what? If you're currently using Google to do your call tracking right now, go ahead and just type Google into the question box. It'll give us an idea how many of you folks out there are currently using Google to do so. And a lot coming through. So back to you.
Thank you. And I don't think I can see any of that. What do you see?
Sorry, I was on mute for a second. Google Ads, both Google and CallRail. Google using CallRail. So a lot of folks that are already using CallRail on this call right now. Maybe they can learn how to better optimize their campaigns utilizing CallRail, and a lot that are using either Google or both.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Okay, thanks so much. That's very informative and helpful. So I think that for a lot of the folks on this call, I think there's a case to be made for expanding beyond Google, and I also think that there's deeper technology that you can get if you are already using CallRail or God forbid someone else, that there's deeper technology at your fingertips that you can get a lot more out of. So we got a lot of good ground to cover there. Okay, so right into easy ways to identify wasted ad spend. Friends of mine who run small businesses will often ask about the best way to market their service. My answer is always the same. I don't know what you should do, but I know whatever it is, you should measure it. I would suggest not merely measuring traffic to a website or clicks or impressions. Not that those don't have value, they do, but measure what matters the most to you in the growth of your business. For a lot of you that are saying that you're tracking based on customer conversions, you're on the right track. That's the end game, and being able to do that reliably and well, and be able to actually measure the cost, in the return on that is extremely valuable. If you're trying to measure how many quality leads are you getting, then that's where form fills, tracking based on forms, on calls, text, chats, and email, really any type of communication method that's out there at our disposal today. You want to be able to measure that, because people that are contacting you through these methods are going to be more quality, or have a higher value, potentially, depending on the type of business. And then secondly, they're people that that contacted you. They went out of their way to find you and raise their hand. And then I think that there's some difference in the value between those different interactions. Depending on the type of business, and I'll hit on this a little bit later, depending on the type of business, a phone call, someone who picks up the phone and calls, and identifies themselves as a lead, it's probably going to be, in a lot of cases, a higher value lead than maybe somebody who fills out a form. Not always the case, but definitely in some cases is. Now, let's say you have a certain amount of money to spend on marketing this month. You're exploring new ways to drive leads to, let's say, your grout repair business. Let's take $600 and put it into Facebook ads. You have $1,000 that you're going to put in a newspaper ad, $800 for paid Google ads to show up when people search grout in your area. And you own the grout business and you're generating content. That is oftentimes unlikely, but young, scrappy businesses do that. Or maybe you're hiring, or you've been hired to provide content, to optimize a website, to do all of that work to drive organic direct traffic. In this slide, it says the total cost is NA. That might not be totally true. I mean, it may be free in the sense that you're not paying per click on an ad, but you probably are paying something. You're either paying something in your own time, or you're paying somebody to make that work, that search engine optimization, to be stellar and to provide results. So there is a cost to that, and I think it needs to be measured as well. Well, you run all that and get back to me and tell me what worked from your Facebook ads, your newspaper, your Google ads, whatever it is. How do you know that it worked? Or do you know which one worked and which one didn't? Did you get more business through the newspaper ad? Was it Facebook? Was it Google ads? Focus on the sources that unlock opportunities. Focus on the sources of leads that are valuable. The people who picked up the phone to call you, to submit a form of inquiry on a landing page. It's dangerous to rely on just ad networks to give you that data, because frankly, it's positioned in a way to get you to spend more money with them every time. You need a tool that's agnostic and will give you a pure, true sense of the full lead customer journey. Agnostic to what you spend your money on, agnostic to the channel that drove the conversation, just the cold hard facts. You can still send that data out if you use other tools like Google Ads, or to a CRM like HubSpot or Salesforce. But use a simple and agnostic tool that's easy to set up, easy to get started and see results immediately, that's focused squarely on tracking the journey and attributing credit without spin. With these tools, you can get granular. Exactly which Google ad drove the best results, which one created the most efficient cost per lead. You might be able to do some of that in Google Ads, but only in Google Ads, not across other networks in one place. And if that one place is Excel, I beg you to consider another way. We have the tools to integrate with Facebook, Google Ads, and Microsoft Ads in one place. So cost per lead calculations are instant. And in the end, it's not just about how many new leads you got, it's about how effectively you were able to obtain them. That's what makes that the biggest impact. And I'd also like to note that even if you're not connecting or spending time in ad networks, you still are able, in a report like ours to be able to, in one place, enter in any offline spend, enter in any spend that went into increasing organic results, and you want that report to be able to take that number in and instantly do all the math for you to calculate and report on that cost per lead. We have the tools to do that, so it's a lot of fun. Now let's look at what the folks at JC Law said. Sometimes it's not about proving what works, it's about proving what doesn't. Actually, at JC Law estimates that CallRail and HubSpot have helped JC Law avoid tens of thousands of dollars in bad advertising expenditures. For example, JC Law advertises their services in part through PPC advertising on Google. By analyzing the actual calls that came through on CallRail with website traffic analytics and converted contacts in HubSpot, actually discovered JC Law's June 2020 CPM was 790. That's only 79 cents for a single view of their paid ads. For reference, average CPMs usually range from $3 to $9.50 depending on the platform and industry. Based on this report and other findings, the firm's new proposed marketing budget decreased annual marketing spend by 20% while maintaining and improving previous new client accounts. And what's remarkable about this is because they were able to learn that they actually realized that they were driving more valuable and more cost-efficient traffic through organic and direct. So by being able to look at that in one place, they were able to see that actually there were levers of spend to be saved from paid, and they were seeing traction from organic that they weren't normally seeing before. Actually says that because CallRail gave me the campaign attribution to match up with HubSpot contacts, I can optimize my ad spend and get 100 times the ROI. So that's cool, right? Same story with WebServe. They were able to save 43% in wasted spend that was redirected to more efficient use for their clients. If you're running through a digital outlet, you're going to get some analytics from that platform, but only that platform. But even if a lot of people click, does that mean they converted to being a customer? And I need to find my spot because it went away. There we go. How do you know if the newspaper or the billboard ad did anything at all? Hey, you got more leads, so maybe you run it again. Same metrics, same results, but not growth over the previous month. But what if for every one of the clicks through a Yelp listing, they landed on your website and filled out a form? They submitted it and you had the data along with the name and the number and the email address to say who sent that lead. Your source came through with it along with everything else. It came through the Yelp ad. What if you could get a text from somebody who searched for your product on their phone along with their text and their name and their inquiry? You had a report of the exact keyword that drove your ad to be displayed to them. And you know who they are, so you know if they ended up actually paying for service, and you know exactly which keywords you bid on that resulted in that customer. And the same would go for organic, by the way. You wouldn't have the keyword, but you would know this came through organic, right? It came through which browser it came through, which device, was it direct or organic? What if you had a dedicated number on a billboard? So all calls that rang through that number were from people who saw the billboard. Same for the mailer. And you could have a setup where it didn't matter which number they dialed, it would always ring your phone the same way, and you didn't have to juggle multiple phone lines. If you could do all of that, you could pretty quickly see what's working and what isn't. You might be paying 25 bucks a month on that billboard, but it's driving 0 calls. And if maybe you could get a few, but none of them are great leads that buy your service, maybe not that great. So that really begs the question, are phone calls still important? 91% of consumers are more likely to trust a business if they can easily reach a person on the phone. 43% of all search-related conversions happen over the phone as well. So the data shows that phone calls are still absolutely very important, as well as other modes of getting in contact with the business, there's no doubt. Some people love to go to chat. Some people don't. But sometimes when you want to know, you know, are you open? Are you responsive? Do you have the direct answer to my need? Then a phone call is the way to go. That's actually one of the big things that we saw in the response to the pandemic. Even when things, after the first initial lockdown, as things started to open back up, we noticed phone calls come back in a major way. And a lot of that's because people wanted to find out easily if the place that they needed something from was open before they started wandering down Main Street. And that's a big value to being available and responsive by telephone. People have been telling you to say, like, let's use Yelp. It's the place to go for grout repair, and calls piling in, and they are tracked back to Yelp every time. For every $1 you spend on Yelp ads, you're making 20. So what are you going to do next month? Or are you going to spend, how are you going to spend that marketing budget? You're going to follow that data. What do you need? Your business depends on people contacting you for service in some way. It's appointments, demos, estimates, whatever. What you want is a way for people to get a hold of you. A form on your website, numbers to call and actually reach someone, and you need to be able to track all of that with a provider that can give you great service and an easy to use tool to measure the data. It's worth remembering two things. Customers want to reach out to businesses in a variety of ways, and you should be able to track that in one place. But at the end of the day, for the small business, phone calls rule. Unfortunately, it's not possible to track exactly what a person typed into Google to make your site show up organically, as I said previously. If they typed in the exact name of your services page, you're not going to know. Paid ads will tell you which keywords you bid on resulted in PPC efforts resulting in a click, but not the good old-fashioned free kind. Yes, you can do some of that in Google, say Google Analytics, but you're not going to know who those people are exactly, right? You're not going to have the identity resolution that ties back a single lead all the way back to what they typed into the search bar. But with a tool like CallRail, you can see everything else. So how do you figure out what terms people are typing into Google to deliver, especially through speaking about paid? Same thing for Microsoft ads or really anywhere. You could try a bunch of guesses, sure, and that's probably going to work over time. But we don't know what we don't know, right? How do we uncover new terms that could drive more business? Well, first, there's visitor tracking. It's unique attribution for each person who hits your website and then makes a call, fills out a form, etc. So you know exactly what and who took the action and what marketing sources drove it. So I'm going to walk this slide. I'm going to look this way because I'm looking at my slide. So a prospect views your website, actual individual real people. A tracking number is displayed uniquely to each person at the same time. So different number for each person at the same time on your site. And then as they move through your site, that phone number is what they see consistently anywhere a number is served. And when they call, calls are forwarded to your business with all of the session info about where they came before calling. So you know what was the original source, what was the landing page, what was the active page, the whole deal, right? What was the device and browser, etc. And then you can gain insights about all of that data from simple, intuitive reporting right out of the box. You might wonder how you're going to track leads from phone numbers that hit your website, right? So it kind of hit a little bit. Well, there's a tool for that, and it's all baked into that same piece of code. We call it dynamic number insertion. You'll want a group of phone numbers called a website pool. Those numbers are available to swap in and out constantly as potential leads hit your site. You don't need a number for every lead. You just enough to keep up with the number of leads you normally have at one time on your site. We'll automatically swap in and out tracking numbers from this pool whenever we see a number on your site magically. And from there, when someone places a call, we're able to create or tie back to that customer's full journey. helping you to effortlessly understand your cost per lead and eventually ROI. One of the beauties of using a tool like dynamic number insertion is that it gives you all the benefits of call tracking without impacting NAP consistency on your site. In the old days, when it came to Google My Business, we were nervous about messing with call tracking there because of NAP concerns. Today, that's been erased. You can have a tracking number and a main line as a secondary number, and then you're safe. Today, you can use CallRail's GMB integration to instantly insert a CallRail tracking number, maintain your NAP consistency, and reap all of the benefits of a robust marketing analytics tool like CallRail straight from the Google My Business page, which is super exciting. And we launched that back in January, the automatic integration, and which January feels like 13 Januaries ago. But to see that product take off and the response of how easy that's made tracking for our customers has been really fun. Moving on. Okay, there we go. And I am always kind of hitting the wrong button, and then I'll end up on the wrong spot. So forgive me.
That's all right. I'm really excited by this slide, to tell you the truth.
That's good. That's good.
One of the oldest things, like with keyword research, like the oldest soundbite with like alternative keyword research is talking to sales teams, call centers, and customer service to see what terms people are using when they call, like natural terms, not just like what Google says or what SEMrush says or whatever, but what they actually say. And this is pretty amazing. So let's do it.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's incredible. What this is keyword. This is being derived from keyword spotting technology. You know those calls you have coming in from various phone numbers? With a service like CallRail, when leads call in, you have the conversation like normal, but have it recorded and then use our keyword spotting to scan those phone calls for natural language. We're scanning for common words and phrases. And then what happens is this kind of reporting uncovers trends in natural language from the best leads, the ones who are contacting you directly, the ones who are qualified. And then we generate a word cloud of the most common words, or even spot longer combinations of keywords, what some scholars call sentences. You can then bid on these specific long tail keywords to generate great matches between your ads and your leads at a bargain of the price. And just the impact not only on that of using a conversation tool like this is that you're able to pick out the key terms in any conversation, whether it be a phone call or a chat or a web form that relays these insights. But also, you get to auto-magically complete a host of tasks. This could be used for instant classification, tagging for easy reporting, auto-qualifying, and more, all based on this natural language identification. But wait, there's more. One of the pain points that we hear often from marketers is the struggle to drive quality conversations once the phone rings. It's tough to keep agents on script. So going back to that word cloud, you're able to use that and other of these keyword spotting terms to drive exactly, what it is, what are the things that an agent can say from these transcripts. What can you learn from these transcripts to lead to higher sales and retention? What are the kinds of terms and phrases, not just used by your customers, but also by the agents themselves, that translates into higher performance on that call and down the line, right? So one of the coolest applications of this for the marketer is to set up conversation intelligence to listen for phrases that the agent uses and then track that against call duration and the customer's overall value. It's not really very hard to set up, which is pretty cool. This enables you to efficiently figure out who is doing it best, bottle it, and train up the rest to follow. And this is really important for another reason. You put a lot of time into understanding what your customers are looking for when they began their buying process. You're learning their key terms and the way they talk about their problem. If the agent on the other end of the line doesn't understand this, if they are metaphorically speaking a different language than the lead, a lot can get lost in translation. Identifying the key terms a customer uses and the vocabulary of the most successful agents is vital to ensuring a healthy ROI on your lead gen efforts. It's work, but it's a lot easier than listening to recordings blindly. Let the robots do the heavy lifting so you can zero in on what's working, apply it everywhere, and then move on. I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. Mold Busters has had the exact same experience. They doubled their daily call volume with call tracking and conversation intelligence. A real live testament to how this works. In the end, the best platform is the one that reduces the number for multiple tools, multiple screens, and multiple logins to manage. You should be able to talk, track, report, optimize, and carry on the conversation all from one spot, and you can't. It genuinely bugs me. It really bothers me that so much time is spent pulling data from separate systems. A few years ago, we went on a grand quest to mitigate this through the vision of full lead attribution. Full lead attribution is all about this. It matters how a lead contacted you, but what may matter more is understanding which efforts went into acquiring that customer, what's working, and let's see if there's a trend between which efforts worked early in the journey to which efforts tended to convert more towards the end. We solve this by providing the tools to capture leads not just by phone call, but via form, text, and chat as well. We then built out a granular journey on that lead's path from the first touch and all the way through to becoming a customer. Yes, it aggregates the data, but it drills down to the lead itself, which is a theme I'm coming back to a lot because it's important. Know who the leads are, know what the journey of that actual lead is so that you can optimize down the line. So you get their name and number and email and which source drove that first web form submission. Was it a Google ad? Great. What activity happened before the phone call where the agent determined they were a qualified lead? Being organic? Sure. It's all there instantly. You can do this a lot easier than you think. You need some phone numbers. You need to decide how you want your calls to route. You need a short piece of code that goes on your site. And you have to have a good form builder. You can use the CallRail custom forms, or you can instantly capture them from another provider. You want to chat too? You can do that. No new code, light configuration. And so for all of the folks on the call that are already using CallRail, I hope that you see that there's a lot more. I bet that a lot of folks on the call are using CallRail simply like offline number that goes on a dedicated offline or static web presence, very simple routing. There's a lot more that you can unlock and uncover going down into the marketing analytics packages that we have. And the beauty of that whole full lead attribution is that it's all one consolidated and instant data set. No platform bias that we talked about before. Finally, one of the biggest blind spots for marketers is that they hand off the customer experience once they get the click. There are tools like automated response that keep leads engaged until someone can get back to them. I spoke with a customer not long ago who described the reality of his industry. Voicemails are useless for me. If we don't answer the phone, the lead moves right along into the next competitor. So it's critical to answer the phone. And even if you can at times, you still need engagement. That's where something like automated response comes in. There's a text message, automated text message that can go out to every customer if you miss a call or get a form lead. And then they know and have the confidence that you hear them, they see you, you see them, and that you're going to get back to them. It makes all the difference when responsiveness is critical to winning. So for all the Googlers out there, all the folks using call tracking just through Google, you might be thinking, why doesn't Google have Why doesn't Google have a call tracking feature that I can use for free? What do they do? But why can't I use something more, right? Or why do I need to use something more? Why do I need all of this? Well, Google, call recording and all that comes with it, don't get that with Google. You don't get to own your numbers with Google. You can track from more than just Google Ads with a tool like CallRail. So you get this holistic sense of efforts across every platform, online or off, not just what's happening from Google Ads. Google Ads is usually not tracking 100% of all of your traffic. CallRail is extremely easy to install. You're not going to get the rich advanced call flows that you're going to get from a provider like CallRail, and you're not going to get the richness of those call details. So that's it. That's a lot of information, but it's important to know there are tools out there to make your life a lot easier when it comes to increasing the ROI of your marketing efforts. Utilizing a platform like CallRail won't magically change your core personality traits or strengths or whatever. It's not going to make you high input or high woo or whatever, but it will make it seem like you're a lot higher, at least in the input side, to your clients and to your stakeholders. So with that, I will go to questions that may be coming in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tatum. And, you know, I'm an all-around digital marketer, but I think my emphasis is on SEO. But I've learned so much about call tracking and the importance of it just by going over this webinar with you today. So, and the missed opportunity of what's not being tracked, right? Which is really interesting. So to kick things off, we have a question coming from somebody about cross-device calls. So they're getting into call PPC for the first time. They know as a fact that many of the calls come from people clicking on the ad on desktop, but then they're pretty sure, based upon the call center information, that someone will maybe see the number in the ad and copy that from desktop or type it in and call via another route, or type it into their phone based upon the ad that they're seeing on desktop, right? So is there any way to track this? They feel that they're losing a lot of conversion data because of doing so, and they can't track where the call is coming from. So it sounds like the prospective customer is seeing the ad, right, on the desktop, then picking up their iPhone off the desk, typing in the number that they see on the ad, and then calling in. So maybe there's not a route going directly through Google on that tracking, but how can they make sure that that number that someone's calling can be attributed back to that ad campaign accordingly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So using DNI, using dynamic number insertion, the JavaScript code that goes on your site, the number that they're seeing on that desktop, we already know, right? We already know. We have basically we've created a session ID for that person, even though we don't know who they are yet, right? So we have that data already, and we know exactly which number that, if you have to be using a website pool, right? Going back to the visitor level tracking, where you're using a website pool to dynamically insert that phone number. When you dynamically insert that phone number, that is their phone number to use during that time. And so what happens is that when they look at the thing on the screen and type it into their phone, we are able to, based on the time that they do that, join together that session data with the phone number, right? And so we don't lose any attribution from somebody picking up the phone and typing in what they see on the desktop. No, nothing's lost there. The only time that you can lose some of that is if they go to one browser, right? They go to a browser in their desktop, they don't make a phone call, then they go to their phone and they Google you, or maybe they already are aware of you, and so they go direct Google show me CallRail. They go there, then they click a button, they click a click to call in their phone. Then you might have there's nothing we can do about that, right? Because now you've got some misattribution because we can't tie you cross device if we don't know you yet. But once we do know you, once you've made that phone call, now with that number becomes the kind of the keystone. And so then we can join everything up. So then you can do things on browser, you can do things on your phone, your iPad or whatever, and we're always going to know, okay, this is a call from Jason Tatum, this is his phone number, and we're able to stitch together that full history.
So once that caller ID is in the database, so to speak, then even if it's multi-touch attribution, you can go back to that original source, right? So if like you're like, hey, this is Lauren Baker. He originally called 4 months ago because he for a mold lead, and then he called again, and then he called again in the middle of the night. Well, that goes back to that initial. Maybe the first touch was PPC, then after that social, and then after that perhaps organic.
Right.
But at least you know that first introduction to the brand that led to that decision being made at the end of the day came from that initial PPC campaign.
Yeah, exactly right. And just to emphasize again, because it can sound confusing, but using dynamic number insertion on your website means that you're going to get a specific number shown to that customer, and therefore anybody that calls that number from that time during this sort of correlation time you're not going to lose them, even if they're calling from a device that's not directly on their desktop.
Got you. So we have a number of questions that have come in about organic and local, right? With name, address, phone number, NAP, NAP being a thing. So can call tracking numbers be used for organic Google My Business listings?
Yes. Yeah. So what you want to do, CallRail does this instantly with our integration, but you can use a call tracking number, CallRail call tracking number, as your primary phone number in your Google My Business profile. You go into your profile, you edit that primary number. If you were doing it manually, you would edit it and put in a call tracking number. The only thing you have to make sure you do if you're doing this manually is make sure that your main business line is the secondary number. There's a field for a secondary number. As long as that main line is still the secondary number, you are going to be fine on that consistency. Where you and the easy thing to do is to use the CallRail integration because it does all this instantly for you. So you integrate, you authorize through Google, you pick your tracking number that you want to be your GMB, and then the benefit of that now is that when people come organically to Google My Business, they click to call that number or they do something else with that number, then you're getting all of the organic attribution from that phone call, just like you would for anything else.
Excellent. That's a very good point, and it's a great nugget of information on the local search NAP Google My Business side. There's a primary number and a secondary number that you can put in for your location, contact information, as long as one of those matches up with all of your other citations, right? And your default number on the site, which is a bridge into the next question, then that will not negatively affect you with consistency across NAP format, name, address, and phone number all being the same or as much as the same as possible across citations and across listings and across your site. So you can utilize that tracking phone number for your primary and your normal, I guess, phone number for the secondary, and Google still picks that up. So
yeah,
it's the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, that's the best of both worlds because they're going to click the primary, they're going to get that primary number to click to call or otherwise, and so you're going to get all the tracking benefits. But the fact that your main line is still on the record, that will make sure that all of the ancillary network of Google Business listing stays intact, and you won't get cited for that.
So for users or prospective customers or leads that may see the ad and not click on the phone number in the ad, right, and click to the site, the dynamic insertion of phone numbers in the site is a thing as well, correct? And
Yes.
that's something, okay. So
Yeah.
could you go over kind of how that works and also how that works from a PPC and local SEO perspective?
Yeah. Ultimately, well, let me paint this picture. This might help from either PPC or local SEO perspective. If somebody clicks, let's say, a paid ad, or they dynamically search your website and go to your website, right? If you have JavaScript installed from CallRail, then we now have that session, right? Like, we know who you are. We don't know who you are yet because you haven't made yourself known, but we know something's out there. And once that person goes back to make a phone call from they go through the same browser, or submit a form or whatever. Even though, let's say they go and they click the Google My Business number in sort of that second interaction, or that second milestone, right? Their first touch was a Google ad that they clicked and hit the website. Second time was they saw the GMB listing, they clicked that number and made the phone call. What we would call that is the lead creation milestone, right? So we know already that this same session, the same person already discovered you via PPC, right? They just didn't take an action, but that was their first touch. So now that we have a phone call through GMB, we're able to create this record and start building this journey and say, we have a first touch that's PPC, you get credit for first touch. And then your second touch was the time that you actually made a phone call, and that's a significant milestone. And for that, we're going to give the credit to GMB because that's what it came through. And so, and let's say that there was a text message, a month later that came through, let's say a Yelp listing, right? And they went to Yelp and they found you and they called the number in Yelp or whatever, right? Or they pulled over on the side of the road because of the beautiful billboard and they called you or texted you and said, I'm in, I want a demo of your price. Send me a sample of your hay, whatever. And then you say, well, this is definitely a qualified lead. And so you give them the qualified stamp of approval. And then now that's a milestone for qualify, and we're going to give Billboard, or we're going to give Yelp, or whatever it is, the credit for that. So my point of all this is that we are smart enough to magically and accurately give the right credit along the journey, right? So you can flip that around and say they searched for you, they displayed an organic GMB listing, and they made that phone call, and then we know, right? Now the only trick is that we have to get to the JavaScript site first, right? We have to get the JavaScript or get the phone call from the offline or the GMB source. So there can be a little bit of fuzziness there, but in most cases you're going to get the right credit along the way.
Gotcha. We have a lot, and by the way, I don't ever think I've hit the brakes and pulled over to call a number on a billboard, but I could definitely see doing that. But
I've done
anyway,
this. I've done the explanation of full lead attribution so many times. A lot of it internally, like training, and so I keep trying to come up with more and more insane uh, scenarios just to like
uh-huh.
paint variance, you know. So I've had a lot of practice coming up with nonsense scenarios, but it could happen.
I've done it while sitting in traffic though, definitely.
There you go.
So yeah. Okay, so we have a lot of folks on today's webinar that are existing CallRail users based upon the response we got earlier, right? So if you're an existing CallRail user, just let us know, like type in, yeah, I love it, or whatever into the question box. The one thing I wanted to ask you was, what aspects of like the keyword analysis, right, on those touch point keywords that are utilized on some of the phone calls really blew me away. Are there any kinds of, I guess, underutilized offerings that you all have that are game changing in addition to that, or that maybe some folks don't know about and they can really upgrade to?
Yeah.
What are some nice little I don't know, diamonds, what are some little gems in the rough or whatever, diamonds in the rough that can be found?
Yeah. No. Well, I appreciate that. First and foremost, if you've been around CallRail for a long time, that we've had a product called Lead Center, and what we've done in the past year, and this has been largely what I've been working on for the last 12 months, is we have rebuilt Lead Center from the ground up, so that now you do not need another phone system anymore. Generally speaking, right? You can now use Lead Center as your dedicated business line, or as many numbers as you need for that business line, and answer calls through a new Lead Center mobile app directly through your cell phone without having to have, or directly through your cell phone without having to have a different phone or maintaining a different login and paying for seats at another phone provider. You can do that all through CallRail's Lead Center now. We have a plan that's per seat, and so it'll give you unlimited minutes, and you can do things like things that would help you replace your phone system. Is that now you can do things like transferring, cold transfers, warm transfers. There's advanced monitoring, so basic monitoring. You can whisper or you can join the call, things like that. We now have call queues. There's a whole host of things in this like very small business, lightweight contact center, omni-channel lead management communications thing that's on the Lead Center side. So that's my big plug there. You don't have to layer it on top of another phone system. You can, and we're happy. That's sort of the bread and butter. But you could just fully replace that system. The second thing I would say is the conversation intelligence and and what we call the full marketing analytics suite. With the full marketing analytics suite, you get the form tracking as well, and what that gives you is access to things like the leads report that's giving that full lead attribution journey. Same thing with that instant cost per lead report. Those are all might be underutilized or unknown. And then to the conversation intelligence part, just the magic of being able to instantly scan natural language from real live phone calls or form fills and chats, and being able to do all kinds of tasks and to learn so much about what real conversations are like a lot faster than it would be to go through and listen to each call one by one. We kind of do all the heavy lifting for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tatum. That was a wealth of information, and I really hope that not only do some of the folks that were on the call today or on the webinar today check out CallRail, but then also some of your current clients are a little bit more aware of what you guys offer and things like that to really make a difference at the end of the day, right? One thing I have definitely noticed is that as browser usage has become more mobile in some markets, we have seen a dramatic uptick in chat leads and call leads. Home services oriented, the beauty, beauty salon or education business, all of that stuff, right? So really interesting to see. Not everybody has the time to go to the website, look for the form and fill it out, right? Who does it anymore? It's just like with e-commerce. I'm not going to go get my wallet and type in my credit card information. That is so 2000. That's so 2018. I'm
Right.
going to hit that Apple Pay button. I'm going to hit that Google Pay button or that PayPal button. Who has time for that, right? So
Right.
same thing with forms, right? Why don't you just call? Why don't you just fill out the chat? You contact me. You take care of it for me. And that's what I like about the ability to do so on this side. And it's something that if call tracking is not part of your 2021 plan, make sure it's in there now. So really excited to go over this. So thank you again, Tatum. Great stuff. And speaking about great stuff, if you haven't registered yet, make sure, speaking of 2021, if you haven't registered yet, make sure you sign up for SEJE Summit. SEJE Summit is going to be held on January 12th and 13th. It's a virtual event with about 5 different tracks, ranging from SEO to PPC to social to content to enterprise. So really excited about that. And I do believe we're going to have CallRail representation going on at SEJE Summit as well. Really excited about that side of things. So make sure you register. And yeah, Tatum, how do you feel about jumping on for a Facebook Live sometime in the future?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Sounds fun.
Okay, I'll hit you up. We're a little bit over time. So thanks again for jumping on here, everyone. Thanks again for your time, Tatum. And just as a reminder, we're going to be sending out a recap, the video, and also Tatum's deck for any of you to review as well as a follow-up. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Tatum, and thanks again, everybody, for joining. Looking forward to the next SEJ webinar.
Thank you very much, Lauren, and everybody attending. It was a lot of fun.